Good evening and welcome to the September 6th, 2023 Comprehensive Plan Committee meeting. I will state for the record that we do have a quorum. And our first order of business after call to order is minutes of the previous meeting, which would be August 2nd. Has everybody had an opportunity to see the minutes?
Yes.
And do I have a motion to approve?
You do have a motion.
Second. All in favor? And one abstention. I was not here at the meeting last. Thank you. All right. Under old business, first item is survey update. So I would turn to North Star and kind of give us an idea of how many people have responded to our survey, and you know, that all anticipated question of what have we learned.
Yeah, so as of right now, we've had 189 responses. We're hoping to at least hit 200, so we'll talk a little bit more about the process moving forward later in the meeting, but we were hoping to keep this survey open only for about another week or so till mid-September, so we can start working on the visioning work. So I think if we can, as a committee, agree to all try to push this out over the next week, post it on Facebook, any Facebook groups, hand out business cards, make your neighbors do it. Any other ideas you have would be really helpful to get a little more, just a little push before we close it.
I know I mentioned it last meeting, all the sports have started now, so
Okay.
school's open, so there's a lot more opportunity to just hand out the cards to people too.
Great.
Yep.
What's the objective again, Kate, for closing it down, not keeping it running, just to
So
move it along?
so we need to, basically, we need some time to process all the data so we can start to use that to work on visioning with you, which is what's sort of in the schedule for next month. So we need a little time to process all the survey answers and then to share that with you. And there will be more opportunities for online surveys with later things we put together, where I'm sure we'll ask some of the same or similar questions, and we'll also be asking more specific questions going forward. This was really like the big, super high level ideas. What do you love? What do you want to change kind of stuff? And it'll probably get more specific going forward.
So Kate, if I'm not mistaken, our target was 10%, and that would be somewhere around a figure of 450. So we're not even closely approaching that at this point.
Yeah, so we sort of said, okay, what if we could get 5%?
Yeah, so we're lowering our expectations. Is that what we're doing?
I mean, I think clearly this was not, we had a little trouble getting the word out and getting people to take this survey. I mean, just anecdotally in some other towns, it seemed like people were maybe too busy during the summer to want to take online surveys. So I think that we need to keep moving the process forward. So we'll kind of end this part, see if we can get at least 200 people, and then we will kind of move forward with different public participation stuff in the next steps.
Yeah. So if I understand it, just in looking at the timeline, and I know this timeline was set up a while ago, but task 2.4 was what we've learned public meeting in January of 2024, which would probably have to incorporate a lot of the, if I'm not mistaken, once again, it would be this first survey along with the department head interviews, along with the chapters. So those would basically put together the information that we need to establish some sort of visioning statement. And then the vision and statement values drafting is also for January 24. So are both of those, in your opinion, online or on time, on the timeline as being accomplished? Or
I don't have the timeline in front of me. I can pull it up. And we actually have this on the agenda to talk to you about later, maybe in more detail. But I think we had to start working with the committee on a vision statement in October. And I think we're still on track for that, because the way that that usually works is that a small group like the committee, with our help, will use input from public visioning questions, which we do have input from the survey, as well as the inventory chapter information and what you know about Raymond, to start putting together a vision statement. And then at that event, people will have a chance to react to either a draft statement, or sometimes the way we do it is have like kind of big ideas from this vision statement for people to react to and say, do you agree with this? Is there anything you think we're missing, as we put that together?
So later on, if I understand you, we'll be discussing what we've learned from the 189 that we've got so far. I would see that as being important information for us if we're looking to make a big push the last couple of weeks, such things as what's the demographic, age demographic of the people that have responded to us, and who should we target, and those types of pieces of information.
We're planning to process the survey data once it's closed, and then we'll share those results with you in the October meeting when we start working on the vision.
Okay, so that we won't have that information prior to closing the...
I can tell you right now from the live Google form feedback, it looks like in terms of age group, the highest group at 26% is 65 to 80. Followed, or actually, sorry, I'm reading this backwards. The highest group at 27% is 35 to 44. Oh. Then 65 to 80. Then in third is 55 to 64 and 45 to 54. And the majority, 87%, are year-round residents. We only got 9.5% of seasonal residents, but I know a lot of those people are leaving or left, so... I'm not sure if there's a good way to reach those people still. And it looks like the majority of people who answered have lived in Raymond for less, or not the majority, but the largest group is people who've lived here for less than 10 years. 33% of respondents have lived here for less than 10 years. And 61% of respondents do not have school-age children, 38% do. So I think also if there's an opportunity for people with kids in school to do a push to some of the groups of parents, that would be great.
Yeah. And Sue, when do the tax bills go out?
They should. The agenda for next selectmen meeting is to consider the commitment and the mill rate. So if it's set at that meeting, they'll go out sometime either at the end of next week or early the week after.
And I know we had discussed, are there any opportunities to, if not put the survey there, attach just the business card or something like that to try and remind?
We could put the business card in there.
What does the group think about that? I mean, I'm thinking in terms of getting the feedback from some of the seasonal people, which, as I'm understanding, we're losing that opportunity pretty soon. So what does the group think about that?
Well, would there be enough time? Because I know you said mid-September is the last week of that survey. Would that give us enough time? Because they'd basically be getting there as we're ending the survey. Is there any way to kind of maybe give a little bit more time?
I mean, I think from our end, our sort of thinking on this is that we need to stay on schedule. We need to keep moving it forward, and then we need to close the survey with at least 2 weeks for us to have time to go through everything. So, I mean, if you think that the tax bills are the best way to reach them, we can see if we can get enough. How many business cards would we need, Sue?
We would need a little over 4,000.
Do you think that the business cards are self-explanatory enough in itself, or do you think a flyer that had the QR code and a little bit of info about the survey would be more effective as a
I think that would be a little more directed flyer that basically says, please take 10 minutes and take this online survey.
Yeah.
Rather than the business card. That's my own personal opinion. I guess my sense is this one. if, I understand that North Star needs time to look at the data that's collected. I know that North Star needs time to also formulate some sort of a overall picture in order for us to put together the vision statement. But if we're not doing the vision statement until January, I mean, I know we'll start working on a draft in October, but if we're really not having the meeting to discuss the vision statement, the public meeting, until January, is there an opportunity to keep the survey open a little bit longer in order to try and come closer to that target? I wouldn't think that when we talked about a 10% goal, that didn't seem to be too outside of the realm of possibility. And I have to tell you personally, I just think it's a little disappointing. I think we've done a lot of stuff to get the word out right now. And, you know, it may just be that this reflects the overall apathy of the general public in getting involved in having a voice in where the future is going for a municipality or a state or a country. But it would just seem to me that, you know, a 5% sampling is not really very, to me, not very indicative of where the community wants to go. Maybe it is. Maybe there are only 5 people engaged. Sue, when we have elections, what percentage of the people go to a town election?
It varies with the election.
Yeah.
And I have all the statistics. I just have to put my town clerk hat back on. Let's see.
I think this is our last shot, really, to. And then it would be a good measure too, moving forward, if people are actually engaged in what's in their tax bill, then that would be a good measure for the town to see if people actually open them and then use that for the future.
Yeah, hopefully.
One thing we open.
Yeah.
Presumably that respondent rate is fairly high.
Yeah.
I do think though, isn't it true that a lot of people in Maine, their tax bills go directly to their mortgage lenders?
Yes.
Like I don't personally get a tax.
Well, no,
bill that I open.
we do send them to the people.
Yeah.
They don't open them.
Mine
Yeah.
never gets opened.
Yeah.
It's tucked away in
Yeah,
the corner.
because-
I maybe
Yeah.
find it 2 years later.
Because most people do get paid by the mortgage companies. I would guess 75% get paid by the mortgage company. And the people just know the mortgage company's dealing with it. They might open it, but most of them don't.
And Sue, so I know just from my tax bill, it's not like in an envelope. It's like one of those like
Ours is in an envelope.
Okay, yours is
We
in an
stuff them
envelope.
ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, we took that on in-house.
And
so.
Okay.
so what are we talking about as far as if it was just a direct mailing?
If you were doing a direct
Yeah,
mailing
as far as cost.
for cost,
Yeah.
right now postage I believe is 51 cents per. So we're talking $2,000, and that's not including the cost of the whatever you print, the paper for it.
Yeah, yeah.
We do have a folding machine, so that makes it fairly easy. And if it was between things, I could probably have my staff stuff, or you folks could stuff. We could actually do that as a group activity. But
Yeah, bring the brownies.
but there is some cost involved,
Yeah,
for sure. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I think if the committee feels like the tax bill is a way we should go, then that's totally fine with us. We can work around that, and I think we can just maybe follow up with, you know, Sue and maybe Peter and Kayla to just go over the schedule and stuff. But I think we should just figure out when that's going to happen, and if there are enough people who are available to help Sue stuff all these flyers into envelopes before we commit to doing that.
Sue, can
Yes.
you confirm, because I haven't looked, has it gone into the Wyndham Eagle?
Yes, it's been in there twice, I believe.
It's not my normal course of action,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be a little bit, the glass is half empty. It's not normally how I think. It's already gone to every household and every mailbox in Raymond. I personally think that the tax bill is a waste of our time because hardly anybody really opens it. I would agree if we do go that route, we would have to do a flyer, not the little card, because I don't think that the little business card is explanatory enough. When I've been handing it out, I've been having to tell people what this is for. Go to this website, do this. I don't know. We've already sent it to every household.
It's a good point, Kelly, and I guess I would say that it's, it is what it is as well. So if the committee feels that 5% response from the community on, for us to go forward and formulate a vision statement for where this town's going to be going for the next 10 to 20 years, and, the committee feels that way, I'm fine in saying, okay, then that's it. That's good enough. If I understand it, Kate, that what the state requires is that we demonstrate that we made the effort, not the return.
That is true. I will also add, this is not our only opportunity to hear from people. We have a whole public participation plan that, there's going to be a lot of different points in this process in which we'll be reaching out to people, both online and in person. And I think, we might want to consider, in terms of mailing or taking the time to put something in everyone's mailbox, that we might want to do that once we have a date confirmed for our first event, because while it would be awesome if we had a bigger response to this survey, it would be really, really great if we could get a lot of people at that initial event. So what we've done, like for example, in some other towns, is done an every door direct mail postcard that has a couple of the dates upcoming or things like that to try and get people in the door. So this is just the first of a series of public participation. I don't think we need to sort of, think that that's all we're going to hear from.
I'd suggest if we could go another 2 weeks, and we should all just lean on it as best we can. And I think having public participation in person, will be as, if not more, meaningful. I think the survey was intended to just give us a preliminary sense,
yes.
Right? It wasn't meant to point the arrow of the final direction.
This is not the only, yeah.
Initially, and it'll help us stay on track and on schedule. I'd love to see it open for another month so we could push out a little more, but I think Kayla's right. Everybody's seen the notice for it. They've probably seen it on the town office, the Roadrunner. So to go that extra mile, if we could have another 2 weeks, is that feasible? Is that
Yeah,
a reasonable compromise for the gang here to try to hit it and
I
reach
believe
out?
that was the deadline, right? I thought September 15th was the target to close it.
Yeah, and we can even push it to the 20th if you want a full 2 weeks from today.
So what's the pleasure of the committee? I mean, by unanimous consent, we'll go keep the survey open until the 20th?
Well,
Yes, because I think we can ask the PTO now that school's in session to send it out. I'll throw the cards at the parents of the kids that I'm coaching for soccer. Maybe Jackie, you can do the same thing.
First practice is tomorrow. I'll
Is
bring
it?
cards
Yeah.
with me.
I missed the opportunity yesterday with our practice, but I see them again tomorrow, so I'll.
So be it. That's what we'll do. We'll keep it open until the 20th, and I'll remain optimistic, the glass half full, that this is not a reflection of the engagement of the community.
It sounds like we're missing the demographic of parents right now, according to what you were saying. So is there any way we could get it into the school's hands?
No, I think that actually was the demographic we had.
like 30 to 44.
Older parents, maybe parents
Yeah.
my age. Maybe not young parents.
Okay, so we'll praise that.
Almost grandmother.
Okay, but is there any way we could get it to the school maybe to?
So I think the PTO would be willing to do it. I'm not so sure that the school will send it out on their listserv because it's not school or curriculum related. But I think we can ask the PTO to do it. I think they would do that for us on their own website or their own, although most of their communication goes out via the school, to be honest with you. But I mean, I'm sure we can ask and see what they can do.
Yeah, and can you remind me, I know we're gonna lower the number down, but how many do we have now versus that target of?
189, and we want roughly 400. So we're about halfway there.
Could we have them do a mailing to the people that they have addresses for if we paid the bill?
and one thing with mailings, Sharice corrected me, the postage has gone up. It's been a while since I've done a mailing. 63 cents.
Yeah.
What's a postcard?
It's actually 51 cents now, I think.
Yeah, I think
It's over
that's what I
50
was
cents.
thinking about is
Yeah, you can. I
postcards.
know we did. This is back of the napkin math, but we did an every door direct mailing in a town that I think is roughly twice the size of Raymond, and that was $3,000 because you get a bulk discount when you do the every or something when you get
Well,
do the every door direct.
if you get a bulk mailer
Yeah.
permit from the post office.
Right.
And that
yes.
makes it different, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Personally, I
But
would
it
rather
takes some work to
spend
get
money
that
on
and
that,
have something
something
to do
I
it,
know.
so.
Yeah.
that I mean, I'm not opposed to spending that type of money for a direct mail, but I think it should be on something we really are adamant that people get. Maybe not the first survey, but maybe public engagement or
Getting
the
people to the meeting.
big
Yeah,
survey.
Getting people
I
to the
mean,
meeting, I think, would
Yeah.
be really.
I agree.
Where we spend that.
I think
Yeah.
That's where I
we
would
spend it.
recommend spending the money.
Okay. Well, if everybody on the committee reached 10 people the next 2 weeks, that's 90 people. That's half of it. So if we could try to commit to 10 people.
Good,
committee.
good, Sean.
And it doesn't even have to be people
Yeah.
who live in Raymond, it's
Yeah.
people who are around Raymond too, so
Mm-hmm.
we could do 20.
One of my coworkers travels through Raymond. I'll throw the
Yeah.
card at her tomorrow.
Or parents whose kids go to pre-K in Raymond, even though they're Wyndham residents, so there's a fair amount of folks we can lean on.
Can someone on here do that reach out to the PTO, or do you need us to do any contact with the
We have a
schools?
PTO member sitting right next to you.
Former. I will
Oh,
do
former?
it.
Oh.
Yes, I had to. You have to relinquish some things. So
Oh,
you can't
yes.
keep.
I thought you were still there, I'm sorry.
No, I gave it up.
Are there any election statistics you still want, Mr. Chair?
No, I think that's it. So, big push from the committee to get people by the 20th in town, or visitors to the town, or anybody that's interested in Raymond to take the online survey before September 20th. Okay.
Can I just, do we have someone who can do the PTO reach? Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, moving on the agenda, department head interviews. Have we completed them? And does anybody want to report on any interviews they participated in?
I just want to make sure we did complete them all, correct, except for the town manager?
Yep.
Okay.
That's
Oh, I just wanted to double check. I personally enjoyed my department head meetings. I mean, I think I got something out of it, learned things I didn't know before.
Who did you interview?
Finance director,
Oh.
assessor, and library.
Yeah, the interviews, great job with those. They were very thorough. We got a lot of good information.
And those will be, so just so you know what happens with those is that we've been pushing out first drafts of those inventory chapters, and any information from those interviews that needs to go into a chapter will happen when we do our kind of first big round of edits.
Any other department head interviews?
I mean, yeah, we had ours the day of the last meeting, and that was with Alex, so that was really good and informative.
That's code
Yeah,
enforcement.
it was code enforcement, yeah.
You feel like he has enough resources?
I think he had a number of ideas that for streamlining operations, and I don't know that we've folded all of our notes into John was with me into the latest draft of department heads. I'm quite sure we haven't actually, but we have those notes, and yeah, it was a solid hour and a half of good information.
Anything to add, John?
I agree. We have not folded those notes in, but I did review them today. So we should have those coming up in the next week or so.
Okay, then those get forwarded to North Star, correct?
Correct. Yep.
All right.
I would like to say, I think between our conversation with finance and then also our conversation with planning is that I heard one specific thing, which is the town is getting ready to turn over a lot of employees. We just don't have the people to replace them. So that was really interesting to hear, not just from one department head, but from the two that I did.
The three, one of them was with you, but the other two, that's something that is a similar thing, is I could use more help, or I'm understaffed, or I could use this, or we are understaffed. I mean,
Issues with
Very
recruitment.
much so
think-
at the library.
yeah,
When the librarians have to be their own janitors,
Yeah,
I don't think that's right. Otherwise, if they have a program, and it seems they have a couple of programs a week,
yes.
they have to break down the entire front of the library, the two of them, move it, and then when the program is over at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, they have to put the library back together before they can go home. I mean, I just don't think that's
Yeah.
kosher.
Yeah.
yeah, it seems to be a common theme. I'll tell you, in Sean and I talking to the chair of the planning board, I thought it was quite enlightening. Just a few comments and questions. We asked about the minimum lot sizes or prohibition of two-family or multifamily housing or the lack of public water supply having the effect on excluding households of modest means from locating to Raymond. He basically didn't see a problem with that. And I found that interesting. In the 2004 plan and in the implementation committee of 2010, the recommendation was that there should be an affordable housing committee established in the town. And yet that never, although that was recommended, that never came forward. We also asked questions about just as far as open space is concerned. In 2004, there was a lot of work that was done, and then the Conservation Commission put together an excellent plan for open space in this town. I think it was 2009.
7 or 8, I think.
Yeah, and yet when we asked the chair of the planning board if he felt that those had been effective in including enough in the way of enticements for development to the areas that had been designated for development in the town, meaning basically village. He didn't feel that those had been effective. And so I guess the question that this committee might ask is, why is that? Why is it that we made such things as lowering the lot size in the village residential and including portable housing or trailer parks in those areas? Why is it we haven't seen any growth in those areas? And it seemed to me that one of the things that was missing is that we don't have any type of goal or plan to incorporate that with any of these subdivisions, a requirement that 10% of the housing be affordable. And it was interesting. The chair of the planning board said, well, affordable housing, that's a relative term. It's really affordable based on the community. So, it's what the community can afford. And we did spend some time talking about, well, that's not what HUD, they have an actual definition of what affordable housing is. And I asked him straightforward, do we have any plans? Is there any discussion for having a requirement that 10% of all open space developments include 10% affordable housing? And he said, well, no, there isn't any plan. So I just bring this up as far as thinking in terms of when we go forward with recommendations. And once again, this is nothing new. This is a recommendation of the 2004 committee. And yet it was never implemented. So I just raised that. The only other one I was thinking of is, and I'm sure we're all aware of the 26 units, multifamily and single homes that have gone off of Route 85 in the village area, where it's 40,000 square feet for a single-family home and 20,000 square feet for a duplex. That there are 26 units that are in the process of being built there, and I think that's great. I think that's something that the state would like to see in our plan. I think that also, if I understand it, they brought water to that development.
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. So there's actually water. It's private. It's not, the town didn't do that. The developer did that, right?
Right.
Right. But so that's also encouraging. When we asked the planning board chair if he thought that, increasing water supply public water supply to any of these areas where we're trying to encourage development, if that would be an enticement. He didn't think so. So I guess I'm a little confused. But as far as the development on Honey Hill Lane, that's going there now with 26 units. The one thing that's missing that I saw, or at least that I understand, is there was no requirement as far as how affordable housing was concerned.
No.
No,
I
there
don't
wasn't.
think that they will be affordable. I don't think they'll be, they're like large homes. They're, 2,000 plus square
Sure.
foot homes.
So if we had an ordinance in place that said in those areas where we're encouraging development, there's a requirement that 10% of the homes be affordable. In a 26-unit development, that would have been, what, 2 houses? 3 houses? 2.5 houses?
Yeah, yeah.
So would that have destroyed the deal, do you think?
It may have.
It may have and it may not have. But the bottom line is we don't know because there is no requirement.
That's right.
Okay.
Well,
All
some
right.
of the unaffordable things I think we've done ourselves. The fire department has changed it so that houses are required to have sprinkler systems. If it's 4,700 square feet of
Yep.
gross area,
Yep,
that's an increase in the cost.
yep.
And
So the-
we've increased the requirements for private roads. So that's an increase in cost.
Sure, sure.
So we're just as
And those
guilty
things
as-
drive costs
Yep.
up. Once again, but by the same token, this developer put 26 units that can be sold at market on 12 acres. That's a pretty big enticement, I would think, from a developer's point of view.
Yeah.
When
Agreed.
lots in rural and rural residential are 2 and 3 acres.
I was like it would offset those 2.5 houses.
You would think. But once again, I'm just making the case that I think somewhere in this plan, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But certainly it would behoove us to say that we believe that there should be
Bring affordable
an
housing
affordable
forward.
housing committee in town, and that we should be looking at ordinances, especially with open space subdivisions that say, if you want to do this and we're giving you this break, then this is what we'd like to see.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any other department head interviews? No?
I had the opportunity to meet with Sue, our interim town manager, and it was a lovely, lovely meeting. And we went through all the topics, I believe, and I still have to incorporate in my notes as well. I'll get those too. But I think just as everybody was saying, the staffing was one of the biggest issues we talked about. In line with what we were just discussing on affordable housing, one of my favorite parts of the conversation was with Jenny out of the town office, and the discussion about how Raymond is actually a bedroom community. People don't work here; they sleep here, and there's really very, very little opportunity for people to work here. So when you remove certain things that we've discussed in the past few meetings, like transportation, and when we don't prioritize having local employers where individuals and residents can work and live in the same community, you develop this commuter town that we currently have, and it aligns itself with the housing situation that we have developed. So if we are talking about trying to promote affordable housing, that's got to go hand in hand with bringing more local employers into the town as well. So we don't have to get into the details of that, but on the tail of that discussion, I just want to make sure that point is known, because that was a big part of my discussion with Jenny.
Finance did the same thing.
No, I think that's been part of the discussion right from the start as far as affordable housing. It's not just the housing. There has to be the infrastructure to support it. What the demographics, I believe, are going to reveal is that this is an aging community. It's probably going to continue to be an aging community. I think at some point Raymond's got to decide what it wants to be. Does it want to have a diverse group living in the town with all age groups? Or does it want to become the Miami of Maine? That's really, a choice that the community makes, not any one individual. Nothing else there? We'll move on. Public outreach event, early 2024.
Sue, have you had any conversations with the middle school about us potentially having a January event there?
Fire station.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Okay.
But this January wouldn't be that bad of a time to do it, so, on a
Okay.
Saturday.
So we, Sue and I had a follow-up. This was right after our last meeting, so it feels like so long ago, Sue.
I'm gonna write it down.
But what we discussed is, I think what would make the most sense is to have it in a big enough venue, like say the middle school cafeteria or gym or something like that. And then we don't need to worry about having it live streamed or filmed like this meeting is. We have the capability to film a presentation. And then we'll have the space, we'll have the parking, we'll have the facility to have kind of a big drop-in style event like we talked about.
I only see one problem. January basketball starts and basketball games are
On Saturdays?
on Saturdays.
Oh.
Just throwing it out there.
The elementary school might, they don't have a full court over there. They may have a better availability for us to be over there. I know in the middle school, it's both school and rec programs go through there.
So the idea that we kind of settled on in the last meeting that Sue and I talked about was picking a Saturday afternoon in January. We'll pick a date and then we'll also pick a snow date just in case. And something like maybe 1 to 4 p.m., 2 to 5, some kind of time slot like that, where we will have a presentation that we can give once or even twice if we get kind of waves of people. We can also just have the slides playing, like we have a projector, we can have them playing on a wall for people who are dropping in. And that there will be sort of activities placed around the room for people to participate and see what we're up to. These will be based on both the committee's draft vision statement ideas and people's reactions to some of the data we've collected. So this is where we're starting to go from inventory chapters to kind of what Peter was just saying, where we say, okay, Raymond is aging, we have more retired people moving here than young people. What does that mean? What do you want to see? What's your reaction to that? So that's the kind of things that we'll be talking about at this event. So I think the next steps for this would really be to make sure we have a venue for a Saturday afternoon in January, and set that date and that backup date. And then I know some people in the committee had mentioned that it might be nice to offer multiple, like to either do it again or to have other times that they could do it. And I think we will have an online version where we'll have the slides and probably a online survey version of the questions. And something we can also do is basically give you what we call a meeting in a box. So we can give the committee the slides and the materials, even give you like your own stickers and charts and stuff. And then if the committee wants to either bring this to other town meetings or have your own event with your own other groups that you're a part of, you can kind of go ahead and schedule those to have as many as you want. And that way we sort of we'll kind of keep the momentum going and yeah.
Well, and it is easier with the school if I have a specific date, because otherwise they don't.
Yeah, so I
They
think
don't-
if
they
the
don't
committee,
have-
if we can look at our own, I think probably not the first week of January, but like the 13th
I think
or
we tentatively put the 20th.
the 13th, 20th, 27th. Which one's a holiday weekend?
The 13th is a
13th.
holiday weekend.
Okay, so I think the 20th was the date we talked
20th,
about tentatively.
27th.
So if everyone is still okay with that, we can try for 20th, back up 27th. It's up to you if you want to do like 1 to 4, 2 to 5, 3 to 6. You tell us.
2 to 5 is probably good. After most of the sporting events, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, if you do it in the morning, you will miss out on every parent and child.
Yeah, that's what.
Is that when they play their basketball?
It's usually in the mornings. If I remember correctly, it's mornings to very early.
By 1, they're all wrapped up,
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah. Or even 1 to 4, I don't know, it gets dark early in
Yeah.
January. People probably want to be home by 5 o'clock. Maybe 1 to 4 would be better.
Yeah, because you'll have people that won't want to drive in the dark.
Yes, yeah.
Excuse me, Justine.
1 to 4 seems
It's good, civil.
Yeah.
Everybody home on time.
Great. Anything else on public outreach event?
I think once we have a date and venue officially confirmed, we'll move forward with planning the details in later meetings.
Great.
Okay, Community Resilience Partnership.
Real brief. I think Katie brought that one up, and we shared some information on it. It's something that is. I get regular mailers from the Governor's Energy Office who helped organize the Community Resilience Partnership, and what is it? 30% of the towns in Maine are on board. A fair amount of them coastal, but a fair amount of them not coastal, and we'd be amiss to not jump on and to that train. I'll speak personally, and I'm real hesitant to jump into to try to lead Raymond's role in that, although a lot of the stuff is things that I'm pretty deeply interested or working on, and renewable energy and conservation, and so thinking about it this afternoon, I think having it somehow incorporated into the comp plan as an action item, because the timelines for that work is right in front of us. There'll be funding that's probably not available in the course of another 2 years, maybe less. And most of those communities that have jumped in have probably already gotten some modest starter grants. So would love to have input from the rest of the committee on their interest and availability to help incorporate it. I don't see it rolling out in parallel to our comp plan process, because that's probably consuming much of the available time that the folks in this room have. Maybe not. Frank, I'm seeing you eager to jump in.
Will it be the selectmen that'll make the decision whether or not to join?
That's correct.
So do you think we, as a group, should urge them to join?
There's a process where they need to be, we're going to get on the agenda and get a request and an approval from the selectmen for it. And in order to do that, we'd need a good sheet of the content of what it'll involve. And I don't think there's much, really, there's no financial input needed from the town. It's all going to flow the other way. It'll just be needing someone to manage and deliver the projects that would come out of it, to develop the projects and deliver them. So that's the challenge.
I did email Sue.
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but I did read a bunch
this
of it.
week. Because one of the things is that we as a municipality have to do a resolution, is to join. And that's just not something I've heard of us doing.
We have.
before.
There are several resolutions the selectmen have done. One of them was to be the influence, for instance. That was
Okay.
a resolution. So they have done that. But in reading some of the materials, and I haven't had the time to read it in depth because I'm wearing more than one hat at this point.
Right.
But it looked like unless some of the committee members or some citizens wanted to step up and do quite a bit of work, as you're just discussing, as most of you found when you did your department head interviews, we're short-staffed.
Right.
So to put the amount of work that it appears at first blush that it's going to take, I mean, you're saying that you're hesitant to take it on. I'd certainly be hesitant to task the town staff with it unless the select board did say, yes, we want to go with this and jump on. I'm not making any judgment on the quality of the product or the value that we would get out of it. We just simply don't necessarily have the staff to implement something like that.
Right.
So, and that's only at first blush. Like I said, I haven't looked at it in depth.
The Center for Ecology-Based Economy based in Norway is a service provider for those grants.
I'm sorry, could you go to the
Sure.
microphone only because this is
I think I'm on the agenda next as well.
Oh,
So,
cool.
Good.
CB, the Center for Ecology-Based Economy, based in Norway, is a service provider for the Community Resilience Partnership and has helped Otisfield, Casco, Norway, Lovell access grant funding through that program. I believe GPCOG as well can do that. GPCOG assisted the town of Bridgeton in accessing funding through that program. So there are organizations out there who can help communities with the capacity that's needed to access that program.
Yeah, I would just add that I would recommend, I don't know if someone on the committee wants to volunteer to do this, but reaching out to the person in Norway whose name I don't remember, Center for
Ecology-Based Economy.
Thank you. Or GPCOG. You don't have to be. So the way this is set up is not just like whether or not you're a GPCOG member. Some of these organizations were given state money to provide technical assistance to communities.
Right.
So the place in Norway or GPCOG might be able to be that technical assistance staff capacity that you need to help you do this.
Right.
I don't know. I can't make any guarantees, but I think that's what they're supposed to do. So I would recommend reaching out to both of those people and see if they can help you.
I will take it on to reach out to them and report back on my failures to do that in a month, or not, hopefully.
Well, yeah, and if you don't hear back from, well, at least with GPCOG, if you don't hear back from them, let us know.
Okay.
We'll,
Give them a little elbow.
yeah.
Great. Good. Well,
Anything else on Community Resilience Partnership? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. We have Mark Marcotte, Executive Director here from Loon Echo Land Trust.
I'm going to introduce Matt. Hi, I'm Sheila Burke. I own property at 63 Hancock Road here in Raymond. It's been a long time since I've been in the broadcast studio. I served on the planning board here in Raymond. I was also an elected budget finance committee member for a brief moment in time until COVID interrupted. I want to thank Peter for the invitation, and I think when you talk conservation, hopefully many of you, if not all of you by now, are familiar with the properties that Loon Echo has either fee-based acquisition or under conservation easement right here in Raymond. Matt knows upside down, inside out, many of the projects that are happening in this area. He'll update you on our participation in CompPlans in other towns. Matt Marcotte, our Executive Director.
all right.
Yeah.
It's the best introduction I think I've had in quite a while. Thank you, Sheila. And John, I'm happy to put you in touch with the folks at CB
Great, thanks,
if
Matt.
that would be helpful for you. These are someone's reading glasses as well. I'm not sure.
They're there in case you need
Gotcha.
them.
Okay, not mine, but for someone. Great. So I see that it says presentation. I don't have a presentation prepared, but I can certainly update this committee on the work that we're doing at Loon Echo, how we have liaised with other recent comprehensive planning processes that are ongoing or recently completed in the Lake region. And then I'd be happy to answer questions from the committee on what we're doing at Loon Echo, what's our vision, what are our strategies moving forward, what do we see as opportunities, concerns, challenges, etc. I'd also like to say that Raymond does have an open space plan, which we have used at Loon Echo many times over the years to help us prioritize where our conservation work should happen in the town of Raymond. It's also been very helpful in raising funds, using as a document to support proposals to various grant makers. At the moment, we don't have any active land conservation initiatives or projects in the town of Raymond. We are focused on 2 large acquisition projects in Naples and in Casco, just on the border of Raymond. And I don't want to bore you with the details on those, but we are seeking to strategically commit our limited resources within the lake region. We are focused on, of course, natural resource protection, but public access. We're seeing, of course, you all are as well, trends in terms of loss of public access to private land. So we're continually seeking to protect that public access where we can. We're partnering with a lot of other organizations who are looking at the same type of land use challenges that you all are. We're increasingly thinking about affordable housing and how that interfaces with our conservation work and open space protection. And it's really great to hear the conversation about affordable housing. I don't know how familiar this group is with LD 2003, but that's certainly something that I'm sure I see some head shake. So, and I'm just happy to answer questions from this group. I can continue to talk at you, or we can have a conversation. So, I'd prefer a conversation, frankly.
Questions for Matt or Sheila?
Go ahead.
Oh, can you tell us where, where are your current kind of areas within Raymond that you already work on conservation?
Yeah, so Raymond Community Forest is probably the most well-known, and that was an acquisition project that LUNECO completed with the help of the town of Raymond, financial assistance from the town of Raymond back in 2016. I think a lot of folks in Raymond now just assume that's been there forever. It wasn't. Very popular. We actually have data from the trails in terms of the use through an infrared trail counter. I can't remember exactly what it was last year, but it's somewhere in the range of 10,000 visitors a year just on one trail that we have. So a lot of use at that property, and I'm sure most of you have been up to Pismire Bluff to see the view there. We're also very focused in the Tenny River area, the Panther Pond and Crescent Lake watersheds. We did complete a addition to an existing conservation easement property on the Tenny River at the end of 2021. So there's now 50 acres on the eastern shore of Tenny River that are permanently protected from development that's owned by the Pine Tree Council. And we're very interested in more land conservation along the Tenny River. It's a really unique sort of wild river in southern Maine. We're also really interested, broadly speaking, in the Sebago Lake watershed and working with Portland Water District to analyze where the most important land is from the perspective of water quality. So I'm sure most of you know that Sebago Lake is the drinking water source for 1 in 6 Mainers. Sebago Lake has a drinking filtration from the EPA. It's a pristine water source. It's one of only 50 out of 13,000 water supplies in the United States that has that filtration waiver. So we're working with Portland Water District to identify where the most important land is for water quality, and then seeking to protect that either via a conservation acquisition or conservation easement with private landowners. So those are sort of our focus areas. We have the larger Sebago Lake watershed, the Tenny River area, places that sort of interface with Raymond, Pine Hill, Owl Pond, that's in Casco, but very close to Raymond, and also Rattlesnake Mountain as well, which we'd love to see permanently conserved at some point, a really popular destination for folks in Raymond and beyond.
I do have a question.
Yes, Greg.
Are there any chances of conservation easements being made so that they expire and are renewed?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Term conservation easements were once a more popular tool used by conservation organizations. They have fallen out of practice for a variety of reasons, but there's been recently some discussion at the federal level about actually creating funding programs for those types of term conservation easements. The trouble with them is they do expire. And so it's hard to value what's the value of something like that, and it's hard enough for an appraiser to put an opinion of value on a conservation easement. Now you add
well, the thing about in perpetuity is it's forever. We don't live forever, and we don't know what someday that land may be useful for somebody else down the road. And I'm not really keen on that kind of thing in perpetuity. But if you could have a conservation easement that expires and is renewable, at least it would give people an option to make a decision for themselves instead of having us make a decision in perpetuity.
Well, I mean, no one's making that decision except for the landowner, right? We don't work with landowners.
Well, it doesn't matter who makes it. It's in perpetuity, and I'm not sure that's a wise thing to do in my mind.
Well, we're working with landowners who this is their goal for their property. We're working with communities oftentimes that's their goal. So in addition to the Raymond Community Forest, we've worked with the towns of Denmark, Sebago, Bridgeton, in most of those cases actually in their comprehensive plan as goals for the town to own land. We think of places like Pondicherry Park in Bridgeton, Raymond Community Forest here. These are places that are going to be available to folks to access, to recreate on in perpetuity, which I think is a really important thing. And I will also add that, as Raymond is growing, and there was a comment about Raymond being sort of a bedroom community and sort of the suburbanization of what we're seeing, is that there's a real risk, and we're seeing it already, of the loss of access to these places. So people, the long-time traditions of hunting, fishing, cutting wood, these are things that really are at risk as we're seeing land use change throughout southern Maine. And Raymond is right at the forefront of these changes in land use for the lake region. You're like the bulwark moving up 302.
Outside of Tenny River, as you already mentioned, are there any other bodies of water that you're interested or looking at to increase public access? We have a couple bodies of water that don't have great access, even including Panther Pond. That is a very small sort of inlet that you can get in there. I'm just curious,
Yes.
Is there any other bodies of water you're focusing on?
All of them. Yeah. The loss of access to water bodies in the lake region is something we're very concerned about. And whenever we can increase public access to water bodies, we'll do it. And in fact, we have a conservation easement under contract right now in Sebago Cove in Naples, which would provide another public access point for low impact activity, that kind of thing, to Sebago Lake. So absolutely, whenever we can work with a landowner to increase public access to a lake. I mean, this is something that I've talked about probably to every select board in the lake region, which is that you need to be thinking about public access to your water bodies, because it's increasingly more expensive to acquire land on waterfront.
What do you see as your biggest limitations? I mean, I can kind of guess you're going to say funding and people and time, but can you be more specific when discussing some of those things that keep you from really functioning at the level and the pace that you'd like to?
It's capacity, really. And this is a really good time for conservation funding. The Land for Maine's Future program has $40 million in funds appropriated in the governor's last budget. There is funding from the federal government through the Inflation Reduction Act, bipartisan infrastructure bill for various types of conservation. There's increasingly private philanthropic funding that is focused in this area. We just can't do it all. We have a staff of 3 people. So we're really looking to develop partnerships, especially with towns, to assist them in their own open space goals. So again, I'll use the example of communities like Denmark and Sebago that actually own their own conservation lands. We assisted both of those towns in achieving those goals. We can do that with Raymond, for instance. We did that sort of with the town of Raymond, with the Raymond Community Forest, but of course the Land Trust owns that. The Land and Water Conservation Fund is another opportunity that towns can use to fund open space acquisition. So we just don't think that we should be the sole owners of open space conservation land in these communities, and we'd be happy to work with towns to identify where there are acquisition opportunities for open space, and then to help them access the funding to do it that's not coming out of the taxpayer's pocket or out of the town budget.
What does that look like to work with towns practically? Is it having conversations? Is it meeting with planning committees and identifying certain areas and concerns within open space plans, or how would a relationship be formed?
Oftentimes it starts at an open space committee level. And those conversations begin there, and then of course that committee can make recommendations to a select board. We can assist with grant writing. We can assist with identifying where open space should be. Although again, I would congratulate the town of Raymond on having a really good open space plan, which we've actually used as an example to other towns in the Lake region of what they should endeavor to do. So we can. That's generally how it works, right? And for instance, the town of Bridgeton didn't have an open space committee, so we just helped them get their own open space committee. But that's where the conversations really start. And then, of course, having those conversations with landowners as well.
It seems like in terms of this current comp plan, we might reach back to the open space plan of 2008 and see whatever updating it might or might not need. I think there's significant parcels in there that were identified in addition to the community forest and acreage on in the Raymond Pond watershed and the Gay Brook areas. There's some large parcels, and I'm sure we can all come up with some other favorite parcels. But that I would see this comp plan hopefully providing some guidance on the next project that would make the most sense for Raymond. And I trust that the select board would be cautious about embarking on an aggressive conservation agenda. And I recall when we were finishing up with the community forest, there was a question from the board on how often the Conservation Commission would be back to do another one of these. And I think I found myself saying it'll be just, one a decade or so. And so fair enough, it's been a decade.
It has.
We're back.
Yeah, and the energy on those committees can sort of wane as projects come and projects go. But I would encourage folks who are involved in that committee to maintain some regular meeting schedule, and we can assist with that too. I'm happy to come to meetings and talk to folks and share recent information, data, etc. But I will say that we use. Some people think, comprehensive plans, they sit on the shelf and they collect dust, and that might be the case in a lot of instances, but we use them a lot. They help us, again, define where we think we should be doing our work. It's a vital tool for us to understand what the community needs and what the vision for a community might be. We work with 7 different towns in the Lake region, so we don't always have our ear to the ground exactly of what the community needs might be, and we use them to raise money as well. So they're vital tools for our organization in terms of the work that we do and our ability to go access the funds to do it.
A question, maybe, Sue, I know you can't pull it up right now, but I was looking basically on the town website. In 2010, there was a balance of $45,000 in the Raymond Open Space Fund. You wouldn't happen to know off the top of your head how much money is in there right now?
I wouldn't, but we happen to have Charisse on this call, and
Yeah.
I can send her a text while she's listening. So,
Yeah.
Charisse, do you know that answer by any chance, how much we have in open space, roughly? Though she may have stepped away for a cup of coffee or
Sure.
something else in it.
In reading up on this, though, I was able to educate myself in the fact that money can be raised for open space and to help encourage all types of either fee ownership transfers and conservation easements. Either by adding it to a town warrant article, and it can even come from the general fund of the town. So basically lobbying the select board to include in their budgetary decisions that a warrant article that says we're gonna put $40,000 this year, this budget cycle, into open space fund would be something that could be recommended in a comprehensive plan, that something like that be done.
Absolutely, and that's how it worked last time. And I think we also made a change to the town budgeting so that the properties that are taken out of tree growth and pay a tree growth penalty, that the penalties for that would go to, some of that would go to the open space fund. To the extent to which that has happened, I'm not sure.
And Sharice has unmuted, but also Kate said that she's gotten that
Would
information
you like to
from.
reveal
It's about 28,000
annual, sorry, the
financial
audit
report
from 2022?
Do you have anything to add, Sharice? I noticed you've unmuted.
No, I just was going to say that I provided that information when I was reviewing and providing suggestions to the fiscal chapter. So I think that's where you just got it from.
Thanks, Sharice.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Those funds can be used to leverage other funds as well. $28,000 won't go a whole lot, very long way in terms of acquiring land, but certainly in leveraging other funds, other types of funding. And I would also encourage the town to think about open space holistically as well, so not just conservation of undeveloped land, but helping people access that land as well. So thinking about what types of access improvements or infrastructure improvements might be needed, and how could that funding assist with it. I've had some great conversations with Joe Crocker, his department, about what some of their needs are at some of the existing town-owned space. So when I think about open space, I'm really thinking about, yes, open space in the physical space, but also how people are accessing it and what amenities might be missing to increase accessibility for all residents for the town.
And there's pros and cons, and the committee's discussed impact fees, but there's the potential for that as well, that incorporated into development of open space, there'd be an impact fee to basically would be paid into that fund as well.
If there was any area of the town's open space plan, or as it exists right now, that I would recommend looking at, it would be those sort of funding mechanisms and updating them to kind of come into best standards, practices, or opportunities. The town of Wyndham, actually just your neighbor to the south, had a really innovative funding mechanism for a large acquisition project that they just finished, the East Wyndham Conservation Project. They bonded a significant amount of money, a couple $1 million, to help purchase the property, and then they created an impact fee, and the impact fee will pay down that debt.
Yep. I think we actually even heard our assistant code enforcement officer, who came from Wyndham,
yep,
to us, who it basically has that same idea, having seen it work in Wyndham.
There's a lot of different ways to do it, and what's great now is we're not talking about like a community in Massachusetts that did it that way. We can look to communities in our region who are doing it and learn from what they're doing, what works best, what doesn't work. But it's great to see towns in this part of the state being innovative with their conservation funding mechanisms.
Great.
So how does the impact fee work with affordable housing?
I guess we've had this conversation, Greg, and that's why I said there's pros and cons to impact fees. My sense is this one. An impact fee on affordable housing could be simply something that's in my opinion, could be used as some sort of an incentive to the developer to say, if you give us 10% of those buildings being affordable, we'll waive that impact fee, and we have the ability to do that. So I'd see it as a carrot to a developer. So it's not always that you're going to collect the money from the impact fee in order to put it into the fund for the open space, but what you end up getting is a little bit more in the way of affordable housing.
And if I just might add to that conversation as it relates to that, it's great to hear that there already are, the town has already recommended, I'm not totally familiar with the zoning land use ordinance as it stands right now, but decreasing minimum lot sizes in your residential zoning areas, that's something that we're very supportive of. What we don't want to see from the land trust perspective is sprawl and fragmentation of habitats. And so we work with some communities, Casco's a good example, that have really large minimum lot sizes in their residential districts, which promotes sprawl. And communities like Raymond, like Casco, like most Lake Region communities are not suburban communities. They're not really rural communities. They're definitely not urban communities. And so there is a challenge. And what does land use planning look like in a community like this? But I would hope that what we're not doing is just importing a suburban land use model into our communities in the Lake Region, because that's...
And Matt, I think part of the safeguard of that, if I understand it, and North Star are experts on this, but the state requires that we identify those areas within the comprehensive plan that we don't want touched. And that would hopefully be the safeguard against sprawl. It would be identifying, what is considered to be prime agricultural land or a vista view, or certainly we already are pretty stringent as far as the lakes are concerned. But I'm hopeful that all gets incorporated into the plan, as I believe it was pretty well done in 2004 as well. But that is a requirement of the state, right? That we identify those areas.
Yeah, and then for sure, but also thinking about how will that influence future ordinances, land use policy, zoning, et cetera, so you can add some teeth to those recommendations.
Sure. I hear that term teeth used a lot by code enforcement. It seems like sometimes we seem to lack that.
Yeah, I think most code enforcement officers complain about their lack of teeth. I want to reiterate that point because I think it's something that's a challenge for communities here in the Lake region, which is, what is our model for development? And there's not a great one. So it's a leadership opportunity for communities here to say, what does the future look like for these types of communities? But it's a challenge, right? Because we don't really have that, perfect model pathway because we're different than suburban communities. And we're also different from like Mattawamkeag or Rangeley, right? So we kind of fall in the middle there, and that's a challenge.
Other questions for Matt? No. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate it. Very informative.
And we're happy to continue to be a resource for your committee as you move forward. Let us know.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Open invitation here.
Yeah, we'd love to keep in touch. So I don't know if you want to sign up for our mailing list, or let us know the best way to, keep inviting you.
Survey?
I have taken the survey. I do get your emails.
Okay, great.
And I'd also like to add that 5% is a pretty good number.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Thank you. Yeah, we'd love to see you at future events and as we start talking about goals and strategies and stuff.
All right. Review of chapters and materials from North Star.
Thank you, folks.
All right. So I believe we sent, on August 10th, we sent the Water Resources, Recreation, and Public Facilities chapter, as well as a PDF that had all the first draft of the maps in it. And I see we did get some good comments on those. Just for your information, there are 3 left for you to review. One is fiscal capacity, and Charisse and Sam connected on that very recently, so you'll have that soon. And then the others are housing and existing land use, and we're just coordinating with codes to finalize those, and then should be able to get you those this month. And then
I did rattle their cage.
Thank you, Sue. Sue has been busy rattling cages for us, and we're very grateful. But yeah, I think we will be right on schedule then to complete those inventory chapters in September.
Great.
And Mr. Chair, I did hear from Chris, and
yes,
he had a family issue we needed to take care of.
Sure. All right, and next steps in vision statement process.
All right, so just want to actually, before we move on, make sure everyone, so I think probably for the inventories, if we send the last chapters to you this month, maybe we can set a date in October for everyone to have reviewed everything, set a deadline for your comments, especially with the maps, because we're not actually doing that in-house. We have someone who does the mapping for us, so we want to make sure that everyone, please take a look at those maps. So if there's any local knowledge that we've missed, we can make sure that's incorporated.
So is the committee ready to commit to a deadline for having reviewed all of the chapters?
Sure.
Would the end of this month work?
I think, well, we might want to wait to see when we get the stuff from codes.
Yeah. And they have had a surge in permits, oddly enough. And this week they won't be able to get to them. I'm hopeful, and they're hopeful that it will slow down a bit next week, or possibly the week after.
So could
I'll
our
know
goal
better
be
soon.
October 4th, the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, let's say that for now, and then if we'll at least get you the fiscal chapter, and if we have to, we'll figure it out.
All right, so as far as the committee's concerned, why don't we have a tentative deadline for October 4th?
And for,
Okay, that all right?
Any members that are having trouble accessing or making edits or suggestions? Just want to make sure everyone has equal access to this, to their chapters and making edits.
Nope, doesn't look like any difficulties, all right.
Great.
you're seeing all the edits come through
We
from
do see
folks?
them, yep.
And it's working.
Yeah, it all looks, these are all really helpful. Like I said, usually the way we do this is that we wait until everyone's had a chance to review. We'll compile all the comments and we will go through them and start addressing them. Some are usually simple things to add in. Others we might need to come back and ask you a question or confirm some things independently. But
How would you like us to handle those sections that are the bigger highlighted sections that don't have any information under them? They need attention, but they're not yet drafted. We may have, would you like us to just kind of incorporate our comments onto the side of those and then, but I guess my question is more related to the content. What's the best way to come up with a content for that? Are you looking for content from us or are you looking for us to go find the information for you? Specifically internet infrastructure, that's been something that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Or that's somewhat of a priority for the town, and it's, I'm sure there will be information coming from department head interviews, but.
I think if you know the information in those like outstanding questions or highlighted sections, or you know where we can get it, please just put a comment and let us know.
So I'm not sure that, did anyone interview Kevin Woodbury?
I don't know.
Because he really is not a department head.
We need to.
And I think we overlooked him. So he'd be the internet guru, and that might be something North Star would want to reach out to Kevin.
Yeah, we can just reach out to Kevin and ask him that question.
Well, and there has been the regional committee that's been working with, is it called CoLab, I believe? And they're doing a presentation on where they are to the select board next Tuesday night. So
The next meeting?
Yeah, at their next meeting. So that's another, we'll have a good update then to know where we are with the broadband in particular.
Yeah, so then we will, so basically if you know the information or know where we can get it, please drop a comment or even just send us an email. At the end of the process, if there's still some things outstanding that we haven't answered, we'll either figure out where we can find that information, or for some smaller towns there are things in the state checklist where the answer is this doesn't exist, or this isn't something that's tracked, or that kind of thing. So
is there one of the committee members that would like to interview Kevin? One or more?
Should be me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, I haven't done any yet.
Sarcastic.
I totally missed the email that you guys sent out. I get so many emails. I look for it and I still missed your email.
we can always also just email Kevin over a list of questions too, since we've been working with him on the website.
Yeah.
So
He would give you all kinds of information.
yeah, that's a good point. We totally overlooked that because he's not technically a town
Yes.
employee.
He's a
He's
contractor.
Put a
all
note
knowledge.
for me. Thank you, Sam. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about inventories, maps?
Maps look great, I thought.
Yeah, I think they look really good.
Little edits, but yeah. Who's doing that work? Is that with GIS?
Yeah, we work with they're called Rumline Maps. It's a guy named Ben Meter who works out of Bristol, and he does a really great job. Plug for my friend Ben Meter here, friend of North Star. But yeah, I think they look great. Okay, so.
Any other questions on the chapters or how about the vision statement process?
Yeah, so so basically we wanted to talk about how we're moving forward from here now that we're wrapping up the inventories. And we covered a bit of this earlier, but the next step in the process is to start to put together a vision statement. And the way that we'll do this will be that the committee will look at the survey data, think about the inventory chapters, think about what you know about Raymond, and start to draft a vision statement. And I meant to print out a copy of the old vision statement for all of you, and I forgot, so I'm sorry. But Sue, I actually sent you a stealth email with the vision statement in it. Did you get that?
I can open up my email.
We'll see if Sue can put it up.
Let's see. Oh, stop. This thing should know by now what I want to click on, not what I actually click.
But yeah, so we will start with reviewing the 2004 vision statement as well, and give that to you to look at. And then in the next meeting, we'll talk more in detail about drafting a vision statement. So I think there should be Raymond.
Raymond?
Yeah, put Raymond up. Thank you, Sue. You're a big help.
Let's see if I can make that more bigger to put it in technical terms.
I think it's on the, where did they move
here.
the little plus on that?
Oh, here it is.
No, it's on the top actually. So if you, next to the page number? No, sorry. Right.
Oh, there it is. Yes. Goodness. Because otherwise no one will
Beautiful.
see it.
So we will also send this out in an email, but basically we were hoping to give you all a little homework assignment to read the vision statement from 2004, which Sue has put up on the screen. Thank you, Sue.
I can get that away. There we go.
And think about what things in the vision statement you might like to keep, what things you don't want to keep, sort of go through it like that before we bring you survey results and stuff like that. So we can look through this now if you want. You know, there's usually a lot of things people want to keep in these because they're meant to be long-term. So, you know, a lot of discussion of natural resources. I think that's something that's still going to be really important.
And I can scroll more if
Yeah.
folks are ready for me too. This is a book.
Yeah, so the
Yes, sometimes with vision statements, they vary for different towns. Like sometimes they're very short, just a couple words or phrases, and sometimes they're quite long. I think with this one, like Kate said, definitely like natural resource protection is still something that is relevant today. I think one thing that's missing from this vision is more like land use and how the town sees development happening.
Yeah, and I think, you know, our recommendation, and you can do this however you want. I sent Sue a couple other examples, which I'll also send around to you all via email. But, you know, I think if you open the Town of Gray one that's in there, this one was very short. So this is a lot shorter than the Raymond one. It's a couple paragraphs, kind of it's basically a couple of ideas for Gray in one paragraph about each one. I think the other thing that is important to think about with vision statements is making sure it's specific enough to be about Raymond. Because I think when you're thinking about these things on a vision level, there's a tendency to want to say like, you know, Raymond is, you know, friendly and positive and free, you know.
Place.
Yeah, Raymond is a wonderful place, which is, it is, but that's not really a vision of Raymond. We want to try to kind of tie it down a little bit to make it specific to Raymond. And like I said, it can be as long or as short as you want. There's another one, we don't need to pull it up now, but I'll send it around for the city of Bath, which is a big city, but they decided to kind of talk about different parts of the city in the vision statement. So they split it almost geographically. They said, like, you know, downtown Bath is this, rural Bath is this, the whole city, and then gave a vision for the whole city.
That seems like it makes a lot of sense.
So there are a lot of different ways to do this.
Um,
Yeah, and you can see in gray as well, they have their second paragraph there is about the gray village. So they had a specific, the first paragraph is kind of the overall vision of gray. Then we have a section on the village specifically, and that's very specific. It's talking about, you know, streetscapes, public space, a playground, new homes. Then they move on to rural gray. And then there's kind of a summary thing about transportation and moving around in gray, which is a big, I'm sure you all drive through gray a lot. They have some concerns there.
Yes, they do. 20 minutes late to work today. I'll be finding a new route from now on.
So that's kind of your introduction to what a vision statement is. And I'll share all this with everyone. I really apologize for not printing it out, but does it seem like, would everyone have time over the next month to sort of look at the 2004 statement from Raymond and start to put together some of your initial thoughts? Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then so we will come to the next meeting with survey results to share with you, and then our initial thoughts based on those survey results of some themes that we're seeing that we think should probably be in the vision. And I was hoping if we have time on the agenda, we could have a little more of like a working session looking through the vision statement.
Okay. And can you remind us where we can find that 2004 vision statement?
I will email it to everyone. It's in the 2004 comprehensive plan. I'm not sure.
It's one of the first pages in the plan.
You should be able to find it online on our website.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'll send that around to everyone, and I'm sure Sue can print it if you ask her very nicely.
Well, I can also send out what you just sent to everyone.
Sure.
So I can cheat.
And we can share more examples too. These were just 3 that I pulled up really quickly, but we can share some more as well. So I think to just give you sort of a little bit more of a look forward, the idea is that we will start drafting our vision statement in October. Then we'll have time in the November, December meeting to be planning for that January event. Because we're holding that event in January and not in November or December, we actually have a little bit of extra time in between. So we can think about how the committee what you want to schedule during that time. And like I said, I think we might, after this meeting, have maybe talk to Sue and then maybe Peter and Kayla to just confirm some changes to the schedule since we originally started this project. So we're still on track with all these things, but I think some things are going to shift and move around a little bit because we changed when this event is happening. So yeah, the next step will be the vision, planning that event, and then once we hold that event, we'll be moving into the more goals, policies, strategies as part of comp planning. So that's my sort of look forward for all of you. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Goals, policies, that all be the second half of the winter?
That will start after we hold that event.
The January event?
Yeah.
Very good. Moving on the agenda, the next meeting date is October 4th. We have a kind of majority of people here feel that they can make that?
Yep.
Need to change or anything? Okay, we'll go forward with that for the next meeting. Sue, any public comment?
I don't see any public in attendance.
Revised schedule.
Okay, and is there any committee comment?
I have one.
Kayla?
John shared with Sue and Peter and I a little information about sustainability talks. So I was talking about just an opportunity for a little bit of sustainability education. So if anybody is interested in that, I will email the committee just regarding a link to that.
Great, thanks for sharing that out.
Any other committee comments?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
When I read the part about recreation, I thought about a client that owned a lot of property in New Gloucester, and they dealt with the public a lot using their property. They never posted their land, which is a good thing, and most landowners are very gracious, including John, for keeping their land open. And I just thought I'd bring these posters they had made up. This client of mine, I can pass these around so people can look at them. But it's something to think about, and maybe in terms of even making them available from the town for landowners that are having issues with people dumping stuff or establishing trails.
Could you read one or two of them, Greg, just
Yeah,
so that, because people that are watching won't be able to see them.
This one says, walkers welcome, please, no ATVs or four-wheel drives. Thank you, Chandler Brothers.
This one says no trespassing in open pit area, no ATVs, no four-wheel drives, no shooting, no target practice.
This one says public vehicle access. Please pick up, carry out all trash so everyone can continue to enjoy this vehicle access.
So we need to be kind to the private landowners too.
Yes.
Treat them right.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the time.
Any other public committee comment? No. My only comment is just informational, and I went to not the last select board meeting, but the one prior to that, and gave an update of the committee's activity kind of on the August anniversary of our first year. Select board was appreciative. I did take that opportunity to also put a plug in for the select board, their family members, and any of their constituents to also take the public survey on our website. I will tell you that if I am able to read expressions, I didn't get much of an acknowledgement that they knew what I was talking about, but you know, that's just my own take on it as well. But anyway, I did that. And a question for Sue. I have seen the emails about the annual reports. Does this committee owe you an annual report?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Peter, we do.
We do.
And I will try to work on that, and maybe we can craft one up super quickie.
Sure.
Using other ones as a template.
Sure.
Because I like to steal.
Okay.
And we just sort of insert stuff into it.
And you could insert the code to take the survey or to go to the website.
To take up space.
Because I can have as many pictures as I want. This is the report that is only, I don't print it, it's online. But it is on our website, and it's a way for the committee to say, this is what we've been doing, this is why it's worthwhile, this is what we're aiming at, or whatever you want to convey to the town.
Well, I appreciate that, Kayla. If you want to kind of draft something up and shoot it to me, and then we'll get it off to Sue.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
So moved. A second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.